Okay, let's get started with the Newstrack. The festival of Lodi is being celebrated with much fervour across the country today, in Punjab especially. Protesters from the state who've been camping at the capital's borders for nearly 50 days did indulge in festivities, but of a very different kind. They burned copies of the farm laws. The farmers have declared that they have no faith in the Supreme Court's committee, calling it a bid to divert attention from core issues.
A day after Supreme Court formed a 4-member committee to break the deadlock over farm laws, farm unions have decided not to take part in the process. The unions are saying all the panel members are supporters of the very laws they are protesting against.
हम समझते हैं कि सरकार की ये शरारत है कि वो अपने ऊपर से ये प्रेशर कम करने के लिए सुप्रीम कोर्ट के जरिए ये कमेटी वगैरह ले आई, जिसका हमने कल ही विरोध कर दिया था कि हम ऐसी कमेटी के सामने पेश नहीं होंगे। हमारा आंदोलन एज इट इज सरकार के साथ चलता रहेगा।
The members of the committee have in the past favoured the new farm laws. Agro-scientist Pramod Kumar Joshi had openly hailed the laws, saying that laws give more options to farmers. Bharatiya Kisan Union President Bhupinder Singh Maan had called for the implementation of farm laws. Agro-economist Ashok Gulati had compared the new laws with delicensing of the industry in 1991. And Maharashtra-based union Shetkari Sangatana chief Anil Ghanawat had said that if these laws were to be repealed, no one would dare to bring any reforms. The panel members have assured they will keep an open mind.
आज मेरी जो राह है, मेरा जो आइडियोलॉजी है, वो बाजू रख के मेरे को काम करना पड़ेगा। जो आंदोलक किसान नेता है, उनके साथ बात करके उनको क्या चाहिए उसके बारे में स्टडी करके, अगर उनको प्रोटेक्शन चाहिए, एसएमपी का सपोर्ट चाहिए तो वो कैसे दिया जा सकता है, उसके बारे में हम सोचेंगे। जिन किसानों को फ्रीडम चाहिए उनको फ्रीडम कैसे दिया जा सकता है, उसके बारे में रिपोर्ट तैयार होगी। हमारा अभी जो पूर्व का सोच है उसका कोई मायने नहीं रखता।
The opposition too has stepped up its attack on the composition of the SC-appointed panel.
सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने भी जो 4 सदस्य कमेटी के बनाए, वो तो पहले ही मोदी जी के कानूनों के समर्थक हैं। वो तो इन काले कानूनों के पक्षधर हैं। ऐसी कमेटी के सदस्य क्या न्याय करेंगे?
With farmer unions vehemently opposing the Supreme Court appointed committee, one thing is clear: the deadlock is far from over. With Moshmi Singh at Singhu border, Bureau Report, India Today.
So we have a situation where the farmers are not willing to appear before this committee. All 4 members of the committee did in fact in the past take positions in favour of the new laws. The farmers think that the committee is biased against them and is a ploy to get them off the streets. They're also promising a big tractor rally on Republic Day, which could get really chaotic because the police won't allow that. So there could be friction and maybe even violence. How do we prevent that from happening? I want to introduce first and foremost former Judge of the Supreme Court of India, Justice Deepak Gupta. Justice Gupta, welcome. I'll spend a few minutes talking to Justice Gupta, and then I'll go across to the firebrand spokesperson of the Bharatiya Janata Party, Sambit Patra, who will take on VM Singh, who's the national convener of the All India Kisan Sangharsh Coordination Committee. Justice Gupta, to you first. The Supreme Court in its interim order has stayed the implementation of the 3 new farm laws. Critics are saying the Supreme Court's entered uncharted territory. They're also questioning the appointment of these 4 members, saying all 4 of them have taken positions in the past in the favour of these new laws. Therefore, if you've already taken a certain position favouring the laws, how can you be trusted to assuage the concerns of the farmers or to accommodate that? What do you make, sir, of what your brother judges in the current bench of the Supreme Court have done? Justice Gupta.
The first part of your question relates to whether the Supreme Court could have passed such an order. Well, normally, when the constitutionality of a law is challenged, the law is normally not stayed. Sometimes a partial stay is granted that though the law will operate, the final results will not be, the final thing will not be carried out till the court decides the matter. However, in this case, the court did decide to intervene. I don't think that the court is totally powerless. The Supreme Court has very wide powers, and under Article 142, it can lay down the law for the country. Sometimes, in the larger public interest also, it can make certain decisions. And this appears to be one of those cases. Though I agree with what a lot of people are saying, that when you grant a stay, you must give reasons. I find that the order doesn't give reasons except to say that to make the farmers and the government come together and come to the dialogue table. That is why the stay is being granted. I don't think the Supreme Court should be granting stay for that purpose. If it had found that the law was prima facie illegal, then only it should have granted a stay. So I think, if this is taken as a precedent by various high courts, we would come into a stage where a lot of legislations passed by the government would be stayed by the courts without even giving adequate reasons. So there I feel that the Supreme Court either should have given more reasons while passing the stay order, or should have not have stayed the law itself.
So academician and political theorist Pratap Bhanu Mehta writes, and I quote, "If the function of a committee is mediation, then the court has violated the first rule of mediation. The mediators must be acceptable to all parties and appointed in consultation with them." Do you agree with that?
I would agree with Mr. Pratap Bhanu Mehta. Not only it's not only the first principle of mediation, it's the first principle of justice. That justice should not only be done, it should appear to have been done. If you choose 4 people without consulting the parties who are going to be directly affected by that, see, there could be, I don't think that in the entire country of 135 crores, we couldn't find one person, one economic or agricultural economic expert who would have the view in favor of the farmers. I'm quite sure that everybody would have used to find totally neutral persons may have been very difficult. But they could have been asked for some persons to be recommended by the government, some by the farmers, and that way drawn up a committee which could be more balanced. But though I hope and expect that the members of the committee, now since they are members of a committee appointed by the Supreme Court of India, will rise to the occasion and leave their personal predilections behind and come to a decision solely on merits, not influenced by what they have said before.
I want to quote to you what economist Swaminathan Ankleshwar Iyer says. Frankly, this is a question of politics. The Supreme Court has not come in because this is a judicial matter. The Supreme Court has come in because it wants to help the government find a way out. So it has asked for this particular expert committee to be formed.
I won't go to the extent of Mr. Iyer saying that the Supreme Court has come in to help the government. I think that's putting too much into it. But I do feel that in the last couple of years, one has seen a large number of so-called PILs, which are supposed to be public interest litigations, are actually not public interest litigations, but police interest litigations. They are filed by persons to help the police do its job. Why should the police, if the police can't do its job, it's not the job of the court to go and help them. If the police cannot maintain law and order, it's not the job of the court to maintain it. Now we find petitioners coming in that the police is not doing this, you ask the protester to do this. I think that is something beyond which the court should not normally interfere with, because if it does, it's opening a Pandora's box where you could open up many things. Some people may like this court's interference here, but in many other issues, they will not like the court.
Lastly, and before I go across to Dr. Patra, what do you think should be done now? You've been very outspoken, direct and blunt. We have a situation where the farmers are refusing to budge. There are different estimates of how many farmers there are, but they run into the thousands and they're not moving. The 26th of January is when they are planning to march in their tractors to Delhi, which can lead to chaotic scenes. What do you think is the best and the most judicious way forward?
Yeah, I'll not talk totally about it in a judicious way, in a more practical way as a citizen of the country also. I thought initially the first demand of these farmers was to ensure that MSP is, there is a guaranteed MSP. The government took a view that we can't guarantee it in the Act. I don't know why that view was taken, because I don't see why one section could not have been added in the Act that whenever a private individual buys from the farmer, private individual or corporate entity buys from the farmer, it will not be at a price below the MSP. There's nothing which, I don't think anything in the Constitution which prevents the government from legislating like that. That could have helped the situation at that stage. Today, I think the farmers are also stuck at one level. You can't expect that the laws must be withdrawn or must be repealed. I mean, but the farmers should also realize that if MSP can be guaranteed to them during this, even without repealing the law, by amending it suitably. You see, the Punjab amendment is basically an amendment to the Act which guarantees MSP. If the centre was to take that into consideration, I don't see why it should.
Okay.
But I do feel, just 1 minute, I do feel that this is something where the court should have been very careful to tread in, because it's very dangerous territory.
I appreciate your frankness and your perspective. Justice Deepak Gupta, former judge at the Supreme Court of India, for taking our time and joining us. Thank you, sir.
I will have to leave you now. I'm sorry.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate your time. Dr. Patra, you just heard from a very outspoken judge at the former Supreme Court of India. He's calling this a police interest litigation, saying that, you know, the judges are being asked to do the job of the police force. He also says that this violates the first rule of mediation, which is that the mediation can only happen if the mediators are acceptable to all parties and appointed in consultation with them. He also says that this violates the first rule of justice, that justice should not just be done, but to be seen to be done. How do you react to what you just heard from Dr. Gupta? Welcome, Samit.
See, Rahul, my first reaction is, just as a citizen of this country, not as the spokesperson of Bharatiya Janata Party, that we as citizens of this country have to have faith on certain constitutional institution of this country. If our faith in the constitutional institutions of the country, like the Parliament, like the Supreme Court of the country, like the Election Commission of this country, in fact is not reposed, is degraded, is denigrated, then I would not fall short to say that democracy, it will be a perilous thing for democracy. It will be peril for democracy, it will be havoc for democracy. And astonishingly, gradually, that's what is happening. I mean, look, we have two former judges. We had Mr. Karju reacting differently. We have Justice Deepak reacting differently. And we have three judges in the Supreme Court, including the Chief Justice of India, who have already given out a verdict yesterday. And we are discussing about the verdict, whether the verdict stands or not. Just imagine. Today we are discussing a verdict which is sacrosanct because it comes from the highest court of the country, number one. Number two, the most important contention in this judgment, which has been into discussion as per the opposition, is the appointment of 4 people into the committee who probably have given their public view before their appointment in favor of what the government's act or law was. Now let me over here come and speak about some of them. Ashok Gulati, as an expert, was appointed by the UPA in the year 2011 as the chairman of Commission for Agricultural Cost and Prices, CACP. It was Dr. Manmohan Singh who appointed him because he was a domain expert. Then we had Dr. Pramod Kumar Joshi. He was appointed as the director of the National Centre for Agricultural, Economic and Policy Research in Delhi by again Dr. Manmohan Singh, UPA regime. Similarly, Bhupendra Singh Maan and Anil Gawat, both of them are in fact real-time farmers. They head farmer organizations. So if we judge their credentials by what they have written in newspapers, and we do not in fact go into the merit of the case, remember, we also as citizens of India can judge the credibility of the so-called 4 farmer leaders, be it VM Singh, be it Yogendra Yadav ji, be it Mr. Tikait, who have also contested from tickets of other political parties.
I hear what you're saying, Dr. Patra, and no one is questioning their credentials or their stature or their understanding of agriculture. The question is, they've taken public positions in favor of your government. Now you're trying to resolve a dispute between yourself and the likes of VM Singh. You're saying we don't agree. Now, to find a resolution, should you not have in that committee people who agree, disagree, get them to talk and then come to a minimum common agreement? That is the way a resolution can happen. If you get 4 people who agree with the laws, how do you then accommodate those who disagree with what you're trying to do?
Let me answer this. See, we have all gone through the judgment of the Supreme Court yesterday. What does it pronounce? It pronounced that as far as this committee of 4 is concerned, they would be delivering after meeting all the farmer organizations across this country on the material facts, on the merit of the issue, not on the bias of their own sense, on the material of the facts, and they would be helping the Supreme Court, almost as if they were the amicus curiae, to help the Supreme Court to reach a conclusion. So the ultimate decision would be taken by the judges of the Supreme Court, not by these 4 people in the committee, and these 4 people have to be objective, and they have no room to be subjective over here. Just as the Supreme Court judges also belong to different religion, but when they wear their robes and they sit on the high desk of Supreme Court, they have to shun the bias for whichever religion they may belong to, and they have to behave as the Supreme Court judge. Similarly, these 4 I would say extremely credible, knowledgeable agriculturists would behave in a similar manner.
Okay, so VM Singh, Sambit Patra makes the argument that they've now been appointed virtually as friends of the court. They will use their eminence, they'll use their experience and their stature to help resolve the situation. And if protesting farmers such as yourself don't listen to what the Supreme Court says, then we will, sir, be in a state of anarchy. You don't want to listen to Narendra Tomar, you don't like what Piyush Goyal is saying, you don't like what Amit Shah said, you don't now listen to the Supreme Court. You can't be a law unto yourselves.
You see, like we're all thankful to the Supreme Court for having put the laws on hold, passed the injunction. At the same time, these 4 names that have come in today, as Mr. Patra is saying, I don't agree on that score. A judge takes his oath, he forgets what he was doing. And Mr. Patra, as you know, I have been in practice on the PILs for the farmers for the last 25, 30 years. If there is a judge who's been a lawyer in the same kind of petition, he says, no, I will not hear the matter. You should know that. Over here, if these people themselves have passed a judgment and they have said, we side with this for these reasons, I don't see any reason why they should be accepting such a position itself. On their own, they should say, no, we have already made up our minds.
No, but one second, that's impractical. We are saying, one second, sir, that's impractical. Because every person who has anything to do with agriculture and many who have nothing to do with agriculture have already taken positions one way or the other. So how can you find 4 people who are experts on agriculture but haven't taken a position on agriculture? That's an unrealistic ask.
Very well. Justice Gupta just clarified that. He said what should have been done as such is keep some people from both sides. Okay. Either ask these people who are petitioners here, okay, who are your people? And ask the government, who are your people? Then have a common ground at least. At least one can fight with the other.
Patra, for dispute resolution, you should have had representatives from both sides who would have represented both points of view. If you get the same kind of people, then how do you assuage the concerns of those who are not in agreement with what the government has done? How will you win their trust and support? Otherwise, they'll keep sitting, you'll keep saying that this is not okay, and there'll be no forward movement.
See, 2 parts to this question. Part 1 is that, well, look, we have to have faith on certain institutions of the country. The farmers have to repose their faith. I mean, the group of farmers who are protesting, they have to repose their faith in the Supreme Court. As we today in the press conference have said that we have faith in the Supreme Court of this country. Remember, day before yesterday, there was a press conference by farmer organization as well as the Congress party saying that we welcome the decision of the Supreme Court because the Supreme Court had rebuked the central government. And yesterday when the Supreme Court came out with a judgment, when the verdict was out that, well, yes, these are the 4 people who would be heading a committee, there was a second press conference saying that now we don't stand with the Supreme Court, so it cannot be what you call in Hindi, meetha meetha gap gap and kadwa kadwa thu thu. I mean, it has to be a balanced approach where you have to, and we all have to have faith on Supreme Court, number 1. Number 2, remember, this issue is a technical issue. You have to be objective in this. You have no scope for being subjective. Let me give you an example. Even if one of these members had written openly against the laws, supposedly when other farmer organizations presented their complaint that, look, because of this law, my land would be taken, he would be referring to the law and then he would be forced to say there is no point in the law which says that a contract would be made with the land. No point in the law. And this is absolutely technical. So there is no scope for being subjective over here. anyone who has the ability to talk about technicalities, and every farmer organization. The moot question over here what the Supreme Court did was, why only 37 farmer organizations? There are more than thousands farmer organizations. Have they all been heard? They all have not been heard. Why not give them a chance to be heard?
I'm saying,
because some may be
these 40 odd organizations that are protesting are not the only organizations in the country. There are organizations in other parts of the state, sir, with all respect to the protesting farmers, who actually come out and supported the law, even if they're not wild with joy that the laws have come. They're not as opposed to the law as these farmer organizations, largely from Punjab and Haryana.
Firstly, that was for the government to decide who they're calling or not. I, for one, I started this entire thing, okay? I gave a call for Delhi, and then after Corona, I took a back seat and I said, whatever they do, it's fine, whoever the government calls. It's the government's call. Today you call some people and then you say, my God, there are only 40 people that you're calling? Who stopped you from calling me?
Okay, Sambit Patra, that's a good counter. You're the one who are calling them, and then you're saying, why are they coming? Why don't call them? If they are so inconsequential, and if the others are the ones who matter more, don't call these guys. Let them sit. Ignore them. Why are you calling them again and again?
Let me answer that. This is almost akin to what one question was asked in the Supreme Court, that we have not received a single petition from the farmers who are satisfied. Supposedly you and I both are patients to a doctor. Supposedly you get cured and I don't get cured. So of course the one who does not get cured and who feels there is a negligence will go to the court. The one who is cured will only sing the paean of the doctor in the home and say, oh, what a good doctor he was. Similarly, most of the farmer organizations, majority of them which feel that they have been benefited because of the law, naturally did not write to the government thanking the government. No one writes to the government thanking for a law. So when in fact a law is to be repealed or the law is to be suspended and a committee is formed, let the other organizations also appear in front of the committee and say that why should they in fact suspend a law, or why should they in fact repeal a law when the law is benefiting them.
What happens next? Because the last thing we am saying, anybody wants, any sensible person, whether his sympathies lie with the farmers or not, will not want that there be any bloodshed on Republic Day. Republic Day is a day each one of us is proud of, and suddenly if these farmers, and we had a reporter from Punjab and Haryana say more farmers are coming on more tractors for Republic Day, now you decide to turn on those tractors, march towards Delhi, there'll be chaos. We don't want that. How do we stop it? How do you have a role as well, VM Singh, to ensure that there is no chaos, sir?
Very well. Let me first clarify what Mr. Patra said. Nobody comes and says the doctor is good, but these 4 people who were here in the committee went and said everything is very good. Number one. Number two, when you talk about the tractors, certainly we all are very, very careful of the fact that there should be no problem on 26th of January. The Republic Day is our Republic Day also. We are all going to make an effort that nothing goes wrong. Don't provoke anybody. The boys are going to take care of themselves. Even in the past, there has been not one provocation from our side at all. It will not be
if you're not allowed to go with your tractors and you say that you will, that's a provocation as far as law and order is concerned.
The point is if once the if comes in, we'll talk about it. At the moment, there's no if around right now.
No, one second. Donald Trump said, come assemble on the 6th of December, there'll be a big gathering, and then we saw what happened. You can't say, abhi bolenge, baad mein nahi bolenge. I mean, what you are saying is a recipe for chaos. How can we not be concerned?
We had a rally right now, a few days ago. What was it like? What was it like?
What happened in Haryana when you went in Hisar, and not you personally, but farmers went in Hisar and vandalized the Chief Minister's stage in Karnal?
See, these issues, we don't even know who they were. They were not part of the Singhu border.
No, but they were not BJP supporters for sure, sir. They were people who identified with your cause.
At this juncture, what is happening around, we can't even say what is happening from which quarter. At this juncture, when people call us Khalistanis, you call us Maoists, and yet call us for the meetings, and yet you call them for the meetings. The government today is calling 40 people and is calling 15, 20 of them as Maoists.
Okay, I'm out of time. Sambit Patra, quick counter. How do you prevent chaos on the 26th of January? Everyone is concerned about that.
See, VM Singh ji gave an answer to that. VM Singh ji, upon being asked about Hisar himself, said that we don't know who were these people. They were infiltrators. We don't even know. And in fact, he rightly says that at this juncture, we do not know what is going to happen. So if you don't know who are these people, who are these infiltrators, what's going to happen, that is what is chaos. And this is what is infiltration by unwanted elements. They need to be weeded out. And remember, 26 January is something which the whole world would be watching. And that's the last time when we should invite any kind of anarchy into our capital.
Okay, I'm going to end it over there. We
That's not
cannot
going to
cheer anarchy. You're welcome to make a point. You can do so democratically. There can be no violence. Chaos is not okay. And you can't mar Republic Day. That's a big problem. We'll track the story. Samit Patra, VM Singh for joining me on Newstrack. Thank you very much. I'm slipping into a break. I'll have more for you on the other side. Stay with us.